Hello, BookTube, and in honor of Mark at Book Time with Elvis and myself's Silent Moments series that we're going to be doing, I thought I'd do a video of my top 10 silent films. Now, that's not an easy task, and this can change very quickly, and the order can. But I've grabbed, well, all but one. I couldn't, it's mixed up in here. I think it's fallen in behind, and it's too hot to start digging through a Blu-ray. And we'll get to it, and I'll show a scan of it. But it's ones that I have, and they're all but one is Blu-ray because they haven't put it out on Blu-ray yet for some reason. But we'll get to that and my gripe about it. Number 10, and these are in order, sort of. Number 10 is F.W. Murnau's Nosferatu. That was released in 1922. It is the sort of the first real or full adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's probably, most people know it. It's been hacked up through the years because the estate, or Florence Stoker, wanted all copies of it destroyed, and as well as the negative. The negative was destroyed, as far as I know, and a few copies sort of survived, and thankful they have, because it is quite an experience. And it's been reconstructed and restored several times. I believe there was some bits of it found in a film archive in the Czech Republic, and by Kevin Braunlau, and it sort of has been, not well thought of, or not. In the sense of, people wanting to preserve it, at least at that time. Now, the music has been, there's been pirated copies of, not, I guess pirated is not the right word because it is in the public domain. So there's been cheap copies of this from everywhere, from horrible music to, it's called a symphony of horror. Now, the key is there is symphony. Don't have jazz. I remember seeing this for the first time on television, and it was like a spiral gyro jazz thing, and it was just horrible music to it. Like, why would you do that? So this has been reconstructed with the original, I believe it's the original soundtrack. And there's quite a few. BFI have done this. Let me see if I can find it here. BFI have done this as well. There's many Masters of Cinema, Eureka, that versions of this. This is the latest one. Also, Kino has had several versions out. So those are the three sort of ones. You don't want to go beyond that. I particularly like Eureka because they usually have a commentary and they have booklets, nice little booklets. This one has a 50-page booklet with it, so those are nice little extras, and they don't break the bank either generally. Okay, number 9 for my top 10 silent films, and that is Metropolis by Fritz Lang. This was the, what do they call this? This is the, it's Masters of Cinema, but there was a special, or 90, there it is, right there, right on the front, 90th anniversary edition. And it's a really nice one. It's got a hard case to it, which I really like when they do that. And a very substantial booklet that is over 100 pages. Well, close to just 100 pages, I think. And this is, again, the latest restoration. For some reason, the disc has fallen off. The spindle, yeah, it's not very tight. So yeah, there's 3 discs in here. it was a bit disappointing as a package because they've also got Giorgio Moroder's, yeah, sort of revamp of it, which was quite interesting actually, with rock music and colorization. He sort of, he edited it and did some other things, but it was interesting. It was quite interesting. That's on here. This was promoted as all bells and whistles, which everybody was hoping that it would have all the extra commentaries that have been done and all the extras. It's short on those. It's still a very good package, and it's a science fiction. Again, this is one that doesn't really need a huge introduction. It's set where the workers are almost like troglodytes living underground, and the rich, which are benefiting from the workers, are living at the on top, outside, and this has been sort of cut up and misused for decades and decades as well. And at some point, I can't remember exactly when, but there was, I think it was just around the early 2000s, that a small 16 millimeter print or parts of it were found in the Argentine archive, and so they've been restored and added to this, plus stills. So it's not fully complete, but it now is the most complete that it's ever has been, and it's a marvelous story, and the visuals are just great. Fritz Lang, well, he bankrupted the film studio. This heat in my brain. But he basically bankrupted the studio that in Germany. But it's a fabulous film, and again there are Kino is done, but this is probably the nicest set that there is. Now we're going to let me see. That was number 8. Now this is problematic because this has never had, at least in sort of the English speaking world, a proper DVD or Blu-ray release. There was a release on videotape at one time, but it really, really deserves to have a proper Blu-ray or even a 4K release with all the bells and whistles. When I say that is because this has been reconstructed, and it's a reconstruction rather than restoration. Well, there's a little bit of both. And what I mean by that is that a large chunk of the film has disappeared. And so they've got stills for it. So somebody has reconstructed it with the stills and added the music and made it more or less the proper length for the director. Now that film is Greed by Erich von Stroheim, and that was 1920. Again, brain's failing me. 1922, 23, 24 at the latest. But it stars Gibson Gowland and Zazu Pitts. Zazu Pitts was mostly known for comedic roles, and especially in the 30s. But Erich von Stroheim was able to get, dramatic performance out of her where most other directors couldn't. But this is a fabulous. It's based on McTeague, the Frank Norris novel, which is a fabulous novel as well. But it really, as I say, it deserves a proper Blu-ray release or a 4K. And because when this was reconstructed, it was aired on TCM with tinting, where there's red tinting and like bright red for the blood, and then gold tinting for the gold. Now that shocked a lot of people, but that's how Erich von Stroheim wanted it. So this is a DVD-R. Somebody has captured it off of probably TCM. and made a DVD-R of it. With it's a nice looking that is an original poster. It's not too bad, and it is a pretty good picture for DVD. But it has none of the tinting in it, and that's where we need a proper release with the tinting, and with so like just jam packed with extras. At least two commentaries. At least two commentaries on this. And still there's hope that there might be more footage found, because as late as the 60s apparently there were rumors that it was under the title McTeague, so nobody connected it to Greed, but some of that might have got burned. However, I have read a few articles, and Kevin Bronlau has said that it's possible that there could be stuff sitting in Cuba, in film archives in Cuba, for this and others too, that are just mislabeled, put in the wrong can, anything like that, and all the above. So it would be nice if we could find the other footage. Eric von Stroheim actually probably edited it originally for 8 or 10 hours or more, but I think he was finally able to get it down to about 3.5 hours or so, which is this one here. And even though with the stills, it is a magnificent film. That was so. What do we got? 8. Yeah, that was 8, and number 7 is another one that's had a bad history too, but fabulous film, is Napoleon by Abel Gance. And this is Kevin Bronlau has spent like 50 years or more to restore this, and this is the BFI is finally released on Blu-ray. Because Francis Ford Coppola, he sort of took it and says that he has the copyright on it and has challenged anybody putting this out or threatened to. And he got his father to Carmen Coppola to do music. Horrible, bad music. And after 50 years of Kevin Bronlau painstakingly finding snippets and trying to reconstruct this with the help of Abel Gance as well, Francis Ford Coppola comes along and cuts it and puts stuff in a different order because he thinks he knows better, and it's like, he just made a hash of it. And that DVD was around for quite a while, but now several years ago, they it played again at the Royal Albert Hall. I think it's Royal Albert Hall at South Bank, and I saw it with Carl Davis score, and he directed the London Philharmonic Orchestra for this, and it was just fabulous. And I've seen it twice there with him doing this. And it is fabulous. It has it's a music that is amazing, and the last triptych scene where when you're in the cinema, you've got your full screen, your normal square screen, and then all of a sudden the curtains open up and you've got 2 more flanking it, and the triptych scene is 3 different scenes playing. Sometimes as a widescreen, and sometimes as, different things that are happening at the same time. It is mesmerizing to see it on the big screen. And the music is fabulous. And also, too, this is I think 3.5 or 4 hours, 332 minutes, whatever that is. But apparently now they have found more footage of this in France, and it's being reconstructed. That's like, I think it was 2019 that it was found, and it was mentioned. And the last time I looked, about a week or 2 ago, I couldn't find any more information on this. And I think it's getting close to like 6.5 hours now. I think originally it was about 7 plus, uh, and and it was meant to be one of 6 films on Napoleon's life, but because sound came in, it sort of, Abel Gance became disillusioned and sort of abandoned it, and he remade it in a sound version, but obviously not as good as this. This is a fabulous film, and if you can't see it on the big screen, then the Blu-ray is the best way to go. And this has a booklet, a fabulous booklet in it, that's 50 some pages long, and it's a digipack with several discs. This was the special edition. I think this is now out of print. Sorry, I'm trying to get this back in here. This is now, the special edition is now out of print, but you can get the normal edition, and it is fabulous. And I'm looking forward to the new version, but I don't know who's doing the music. I really think they should get Carl Davis to do the music as well for it, but we'll have to see. So what do we got there? That's 10, 9, 8, 7. So number 6, we're coming to a European film director a German film director that went to Hollywood. Didn't have a great time in Hollywood, but he did do a fabulous film that sort of combines the European silent film with American silent film, and he married those just beautifully. And that's 1927's Sunrise. That has Janet Gaynor and George O'Brien. And this again is the Eureka Masters of Cinema, and it's a fabulous story. It's your sort of basic story. A city girl comes, and tempts the fate, or up to that point faithful husband, and but then there's redemption in the end, and it's just so beautifully filmed with angles like there's the floor that is it's sort of forced perspective because the floor is angled to make it look bigger and all sorts of things like that. It's just a beautiful film, and it was sort of his last best film, I guess, for the United States. He did a couple after this, but they weren't quite as good, and then he had a tragic death in, I think, 1930 or 31 in a car accident. But yeah, Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans by F.W. Murnau, if I didn't say that. F.W. Murnau, 1927. So that's 6. Number 5 is a Danish direct. Danish? Yeah, I think it's Danish. It's The Passion of Joan of Arc. It's Carl Theodor Dreyer. No, he's Danish. Yeah, I'm sure he's Danish. And it is wonderful. It's like all it is faces, but it's the emotion that is in there is just so fabulous. And again, this is a Masters of Cinema, their wonderful hard case booklet. This one's over 100 pages, I'm quite sure. Well, just 100, sorry. I keep thinking they're over, but they're not. Yeah, and it's got essays. It's absolutely fabulous. This was a special edition. It's a metal case, and it's got three it's got Blu-ray and DVD in here. And it's about Joan of Arc, and it's while she was imprisoned, and it's just everything is sort of focused on faces like that. And the sort of story is that the producers and the backers, gave him lots of money. He was building these sets, and then they watched the film, and all they saw was the faces mostly, and they're wondering, why did they spend all this money on all these sets when he's not showing them off? But he does it just wonderfully. And the actress, uh, uh, Janine, no, what's her name? Um, oh, my Franconi. Uh, uh, I looked this stuff up at the time, and then the way the heat in my brain is Maria Falconetti, Renee Maria Falconetti. She's just a wonderful actress. She really didn't do much else, but this is a fabulous film, and any of these are, I think, perfect starter films as well for anybody getting into silent film, and this one more so than the others. So that was five. Uh, yeah. So three. Going back to F.W. Murnau and Faust. This is 1926. Oh, I didn't say. Joan, The Passion of Joan of Arc is 1928. It was Carl Theodor Dreyer's last silent film. And this one is 1926, Faust, and it is the Faust story. And it is just wonderful. Every scene is like a painting. It's like a staged painting. Every single scene. It is just wonderful. Emil Jennings plays Faust, and yeah, it's just I can't I can't sort of recommend it more highly, because it is extremely visual, and you don't need a lot of like, well, these were silent. It worked on music more than anything, and there aren't that many intertitles with this because you don't need it. It's like his F.W. Murnau's other one that could have been on here too, was The Last Laugh or Der letzte Man. And there's hardly any, intertitles, like any dialogue that's thrown up on the screen or any explanation, because you don't need it. You see it all. The story is there for you, and it is a depth of a story too. It's not just superficial. There's a lot of depth to these, and this one is more so. It's just fabulous. Yeah, I don't know, but again, this is a masters of cinema, because they do wonderful work. Now, the other one, I just couldn't. Like I say, it's in behind here somewhere, but it's just too hot. Like, I tried to sort of look. I remember it's sort of flipping in behind, but I don't remember exactly where. So it's just too hot to get it. So I'll show you a scan. It's a Criterion collection. It's 1920s, The Phantom Carriage by Victor Seastrom, Swedish. And this was long before he came to the United States. And it's basically a story about a man who is not, he isn't a good father, he isn't a good husband, and all these things. But he gets a second chance because he dies on New Year's Eve, and the last person who dies then becomes the Grim Reaper, Death, to go and collect. So he's taken on this journey, and the special effects for 1920 are amazing. These are multiple exposures in the camera, where they would film and then roll back the film and then expose it again, roll it back, expose it again. So you had these things on top of each other. So there'd be ghostly figures that walk through, or the carriage going underwater. It is just magnificent, and it's a good story as well, because there is redemption at the end, whether you believe it or not. But that's, is neither here nor there for the quality of the film. And there's a great scene that people will recognize from more modern, where it's the Stephen King story made, and I can't, anyway, where the guy chops through the axe into the door, and then says, Jack's here, or Jack's home, or whatever. That is directly from the Phantom Carriage. Um, so that's it, and it's just visually stunning. And for 1920, it's just bloody amazing. Is the easiest way to put it. Another one that's a fabulous one to me, and we're going back to Abel Gance, and this is a new restoration that was done. This is the French edition, and it's La Roue, the wheel, Abel Gance. And the problem with this one is, to a certain extent, I'm just trying to see what year this was. 1923, I want to say. Somewhere around that. And the problem is, it's a nice big booklet, but it's all in French, and I can't speak French. There are multiple discs in here because it's about 6.5 hours. And I did this one Sunday. I watched it all. I watched it back to back, and it's absolutely fabulous. Abel Gance tells a wonderful story of this train engineer who saves a little girl after a train wreck. He takes her in and adopts her. But there's a few sinister things that sort of happen later, and I won't go into those. But it's the wheel. It's like the whole imagery of a wheel turning, the wheel of time. Yeah. I'm not making any reference. But the wheel, gets ground under, and just the movement. And he puts up, as there's a lot of intertitles here, but he pulls up bits from literature, Sanskrit, poetry, everything about how things can change and how you can be ground under at times with the wheel. And it's just fabulous. And it goes through his life until his old age. He becomes blind. His son dies. And then he's been estranged from his daughter, but his daughter comes back. And it is a wonderful film. And I'm so glad to have this. I'm hoping there will be an English edition put out, as good as this, with the extras and everything like that. Because this one, the main film, does have English subtitles, which is fabulous. And that's the way I prefer to have the original on the screen, whatever language it is, and then the subtitles, rather than change the intertitles on the screen to English. I don't care for that. That's what Kino does for the most part, and I have a bit of a problem with that. I prefer it to be the original and then the subtitle. But some of the other films and the documentaries in here don't have any subtitles, so that is an issue when you cannot speak or read French. Now, my number one is probably no big secret to many. I'm waiting for a Blu-ray edition of this. But so far, this out-of-print Criterion edition is all there is. And that's Pandoras Box. It's G.W. Pabst, and it's basically Louise Brooks and playing Lulu, which what was a beloved character in sort of the turn of the 20th century play by Wedekind, a trilogy of plays. And she just works perfectly at it. There was controversy in Germany when she took the part, but she was made for this. She was clearly made for playing Lulu. But when she came back to Hollywood, well, her career basically was over. But she made 3 films while in Europe. Diary of a Lost Girl by G.W. Pabst as well, which is fabulous. This one just surpasses it slightly, I think. Well, it surpasses it. And then Prix de Beauté, she did in France, which was sort of both a sound and a silent film. The sound version doesn't exist anymore, as far as I'm aware. Kino used to have a DVD of Pré de Beauté. It's sort of Miss Europe, I think it is the English title. But this is just fabulous. It's about a woman who could be a prostitute, ill repute, but basically she attracts. Well, she's very attractive, so she attracts men, and wealthy men, powerful men, who will fight for her, even father and son. And every man that she sort of she destroys, and that's the idea anyway. That she destroys, and she travels to England to escape a murder charge, and only to find unhappiness and death at the end. But it is fabulously acted. Louise Brooks was so natural. She did not act. She just sort of played the parts very naturally, and Pabst was a fabulous director as well. So this is my number one pick for my favorite silent film, and it's purely because Louise Brooks is in it. It's as simple as that. So, and what better reason is Louise Brooks. So anyway, there's my 10 silent films, my favorite silent film, my top 10. And what are your top 10? Have you seen any of these silent films? And what do you think of them? Or does any of my descriptions make you want to see any? I hope that's the case if you haven't. And I'd love to know what you think of these or any other silent films as we continue, Mark and I, with our silent moments every second week, or every third week. Sorry, every third week of the month, we will be doing a silent film study of some sort. So join us for that. Take care, Buck2.